Floyd Beats.
Shout out to The Read for inspiring me to start my podcast. You're listening to Read the Bottom Line. My name is Danielle Reed. I am a professional in the media industry and have been since 2016. I would even argue 2015. About 5 years ago, I started my career at Time Warner Cable News as an intern, working for the news director of the station in Syracuse, New York, and upstate New York in the United States of America. Read the Bottom Line, hashtag Read the Bottom Line, is a podcast about news analysis and the Black American experience today. If you've ever seen Black in America, God bless, bow down to, and kudos to Soledad O'Brien, who is one of my heroes. Sheroes. I literally honor her. She is literally an icon in journalism. And to be a Black woman, to also be an Afro-Latina. Give it up for my Afro-Latinas. To be an Afro-Latina in the news, as an anchor, as a face, I have to give her credit and props, and I have to congratulate her on all of her own individual efforts to start her own media company, Starfish Media. Shout out to Starfish Media Group. At Read the Bottom Line, you can definitely rest assured that you will learn a lot more about the Black women who are making a lot of noise right now in the world of television and entertainment. I'm Danielle Reed, and today's episode is titled Hashtag Black Kids Matter. My very first guest today, I'm so excited to speak to her today and to have you all listen to this story. Right now, I'm about to present to you the operations manager at NYU Center for Cybersecurity and the CEO of Knox Brand Media, which is a full-service brand strategy company. Please, it gives me great pleasure to present to you Emerald Knox.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate all the amazing things you said. And I also really appreciate our pre-interview, which was just a way for me to really think about my story and what I'm doing and come to the conclusion that, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It's a new mission for me, you know?
Yes, I'm so happy to hear that. I was also so happy to speak with you to learn more about what you've done. You're really making a change in our communities, and that's where it starts. When we're talking about the issues of police brutality, when we're talking about movements like Black Lives Matter.
This is perfect.
Hi. Yes.
Can you go back in there and be quiet?
No, and then when we're talking about entrepreneurship, you have a beautiful son, you have a beautiful family. Please just tell us just about what you do and tell us a little bit about your kids and how you got started organizing the march.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm the operations manager at NYU Center for Cybersecurity, and mostly what I do there is events. I started off doing events and entertainment and directing videos and things like that. So I'm more of an entertainment person. And I switched to academia, one, because it's super stable, but it also gives you an opportunity to teach. So that's my day-to-day job. And as an entrepreneur, I'm working on Knox Brand Media, which is a branding company that eventually will house smaller brands. I want to really empower Black businesses to think about brand strategy in the same way that these major companies think about it. Long-term brand strategy. You know, we come up with these amazing brands and they're not sustainable because we're not thinking long-term. So that's what my company is set out to do. I've been doing it for a while and figuring out what my brand is. But yeah, that's what Knox Brand Media is all about. My family, I'm a single mom. Me and his dad are great, but I'm a single mom raising a son in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. One son, he's 8 years old. And I don't know if you want to get into the story of Black Kids Matter or just the fact that, I'm here. I started a socialite club with some other single mothers, and we get our kids together and engage before the pandemic, of course, and have play dates and do little things just to bond with our kids, because I truly believe that having memories are super important, and that comes through kind of experience. So.
Absolutely. And exactly. Everything that you've said, Ms. Knox, is, and I'll call you Emerald, just because we're so close in age. I'm only 26 years old, but I look at you as someone who is young and, again, necessary, especially as a young Black African-American woman, a young Black entrepreneur. You are the voice that they are talking about when we're hearing presidential candidates talk about, the middle class and people in the community and citizens on the ground who are needing to vote and get out and do the work. They're talking about women like you. We're talking about single mothers. We're talking about families. And so to get started, I just want to jump straight into the story of how you single-handedly were able to organize the very first Black Kids Matter March in Brooklyn on Juneteenth this year, 2020. I'll say this for our readers, not our readers, I'm such a journalist. For our listeners who are listening in, I first discovered Emerald and the story about the hashtag Black Kids Matter March right around, I would say it was probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the George Floyd incident, which that happened in May. And so, of course, we saw the protests kick up, huge protests across the country and across the world, all the way from May, June, and July. And here it is, August. Today is August 9th, and you're still seeing protests. And so Juneteenth happening June 19th, between the time of George Floyd's murder in May and between the time of your march, when did it click in your head that you wanted to create a different kind of protest experience for your son?
Well, when the George Floyd incident happened, to be honest, I was super numb to it. And I was like, yeah, another one, But then I think because of the pandemic, there's more opportunity for people to sit back and think. So when I saw that people were outraged and protesting and not letting up, like they kept it going. It wasn't a one-time thing. It lasted for a week, 2 weeks. By that third week, I was like, wow, do I want to get left on the other side of history? I can't just sit back and be numb to this. I have to do something. So my first instinct was to take my son out. My first instinct was to go to a march that existed already. I'm a single mother, so take my son with me, right? So what I did was I mentioned it to my son. I said, hey, we're going to go to a protest casually. We're going to a protest tomorrow. And he started crying and like quivering and like, wow. I didn't realize he was so scared. So
wow. What did he say? Did he say anything in particular about what made him afraid? Was it something on the news, or was it something him and his friends heard or talked about?
I actually don't even know where it comes from. I think it's sort of embedded in Black culture. He automatically was just afraid of the police, and he was quivering, and he literally said, I don't want to die. I don't want you to die. So I was like, we're just going to go protest. It's at the Barclays Center. It's safe. And he was like, no way, I'm not going. So I said, I'm going to leave you home with grandma and I'll go. And he grabbed me. He was like, I'll go with you because I don't want you to die. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so intense, right?
Wow.
I'm just like, I didn't realize that he had those experiences or he had that energy in him because we had never discussed it. It wasn't a topic.
And this is 2020. I mean, we're talking about the time of social media. What you're describing in terms of this conversation that you're having with your Black son, how old is he?
8. He's
8 years old. The same fear that Black children had back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s marching in the street, fear of their life, because you could get killed, you could get arrested. That fear, it's so crazy to me to imagine an 8-year-old boy in 2020 having and registering that fear, not just fear of the police, but fear to go out with his own mother and to walk in the streets to protest and demand freedom.
Yeah.
That's deep. That's really deep. And that really, I think, gets to the conversation that we rarely ever see mainstream news having, and even police having on a national or local level. Where do we get this healthy fear of the police from when you have to defend yourself and when you're afraid for your lives from the very people that are supposed to protect you? So he's afraid. You're seeing and registering that he has even volunteered, even after stating his fear, courageously saying, Mom, if you go, I'm going too. Now, that's a real man, and I got to give him props for that. That's dope.
So I definitely give him so much props for that. And when I heard him talk, I didn't realize that he's having a different experience for me, a different Black experience, because he's a Black man. So even though Black women are killed by the police, obviously with Breonna Taylor, it's happening. I don't believe that we have the same embedded fear that Black men carry along with them. I'm like, I'll go to the protest. I'm actually sometimes a little sassy with police. Like, I feel, I don't have this kind of like fear the same way that he had it. So we got together. I said, I'm going to take him to one that was like in the daytime, one that I thought was super safe, because the message that the protesters were pitching wasn't as like, it wasn't as negative or harsh, so to speak. And we went to that one, and we're walking up to the Barclays Center, which is for him, the Barclays Center is like Jurassic Park worldwide or a basketball game. It's not like a place where a movement will be happening. So he walked up, and the energy between the protesters and the police, the tension was so thick that he could see it. So usually in the neighborhood, even though there's a fear of police, during the daytime, a police officer will say, hey, buddy, or hi.
Right.
They had their guns drawn, and they weren't saying hi to kids. None of that was happening. So he felt that energy, and he tensed up. I get him deeper into the protest, and I want to see it. So I'm going to the middle to see, whoever's talking. And he was just terrified. We ended up standing on the outskirts, and I kind of forced him to like put his fist up and take pictures and stuff. And I posted it on Instagram, and then I was asking other moms, like, what are you guys saying to your kids about this? Because there's a lot going on, and you can't ignore it. You'll see it on YouTube, like wherever they are, they're going to see it. You can't hide it from them. And also, it would be very ignorant of me to hide it from him, because he's going to have to go through it. So,
right.
Moms were saying, it was mixed messages. Some moms were saying, I talk to them. I've been talking to my kids since they were 3. I've been telling them. And, some of it was a negative to me in the sense of, you've been telling them that they have no, like, a Black man in America is, you have to live on the defense, which I just didn't want him to have that burden at 8.
Wow. I mean, that's real. That's a true thing. Here on Read the Bottom Line, my podcast is about getting to the bottom line of the experience that Black Americans have from childhood to teenage years through adulthood. Hopefully, if you stay alive. We grew up, knowing that we'd be lucky to make it until we were 25, lucky to see our 20s. It's in songs. It's ingrained in our culture. So the fear that your son at 8 years old has of even going to a protest, let alone speaking to a police officer on a regular day. And then also hearing mothers speaking to other parents that you also know. You're in Brooklyn, New York, a thriving Black community, even in a thriving Black community, with historically Black businesses and communities and homes, there's still a fear of police, because we've never have been able to be 100% safe, even in our own communities, because we know people can come into our communities and abuse and terrorize us. So hearing what you're saying that mothers spoke to you about in terms of how they speak to their sons and daughters about police makes me think of one comment my mother said to me, and I'll never forget it. She said, and I can't remember how old I was. I think I was 8, maybe 10, 12. I can't remember. But she told me I would never want to have a son in this country.
Oh, wow.
She said she would never want to raise a Black boy in America.
Sorry.
That's what my mother said to me, when I was very young. And I'll never forget it. And, at first I thought, she was definitely overreacting. I was like, what? But I want a brother. You just think, you just think your parents are just over exaggerating. There's a level of innocence when you're a child and you you hope and pray that things really aren't as bad as they may sound or look, and you look to your parents to be hopeful. But when your parents are telling you something real, you can tell, when it's something serious and it's something that they might not have the power to control. That's when you see kids get afraid. So can you talk more about what kind of helped and aligned in order to be able to put the march together after that protest experience?
Yeah, well, I just want to comment on what you said and about raising a Black man. It's really, really hard to do that. There's like a quote, I want to say it's Malcolm X, where he says or the Nation of Islam or something, where they say that the Black woman is the most mistreated person in America, or just in the world and culture.
The most unprotected.
The unprotected. However, I do believe that the Black man is the most targeted. It's just, we're unprotected, and that's a problem. But they are targeted and hunted by people. And
that's true.
Has kids, and it's so sad. And as a Black mother, our first instinct is to protect our children. And raising a Black man is super, super hard, because you don't know what they're going through emotionally, especially if you're doing it as a single mother. But you don't know their experience. Being a Black man means so much, and it's so hard for me to explain it, but it's such it's almost like a maze, because they don't have the same opportunities that I believe that a Black woman is afforded, just in a sense of, I know that I'm able to finagle my way through white America and do certain things at work that I just don't feel like Black men are able to do. I just don't feel like they have the same opportunity to navigate white culture in the same way that we do. Now, I don't know this to be true for sure, but just from my personal experience, I feel like I've met super qualified Black men who are not given opportunities to just thrive and be themselves. They're hunted, they're neglected, and I'm trying to change that with my own son, but eventually I have to give him to the world. So it's scary to raise a black boy, Black man. It is.
Thank you for opening up about that, Emerald, because and make sure you all followed Emerald Knox at it's at Emerald Knox
City. No, Emerald City.
Emerald City, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Emerald City.
like the Wizard of Oz.
Yes, you actually just made me think about the Wiz. I'm like, the color is green.
Yes, it is.
But no, back to what you were saying. I just thank you for opening up to our listeners about the qualms, the challenge of raising a young Black boy, and then eventually a young Black man in America. I think what you have stated, I've also experienced. I also believe Black men are targeted. And when we're saying targeted, I'm not just talking about guns pointed literally at their backs and heads.
The guns are the last resort.
I'm talking about advertising. I'm talking about buy this, buy that, culture, music, listen to this rapper, listen to that rapper. There is literally a blueprint pushed on them, literally like, you're going to end up in jail. 1 in 3 ended up in jail. 1 in 3 ended up arrested. 1 in 3 or 4 shot and killed. And so here at the bottom line, I will bring you those real statistics so that we can follow up and have more specific discussions, because you're absolutely right. There are statistics that completely lead to the devaluing and oppression of the Black man in America, from a professional standpoint, from an educational standpoint, and from a societal standpoint, and specifically from a criminal justice standpoint. They are targeted at every single level. And we already know how hard it is just to come out and graduate with a degree and get a regular job, being anybody in America, let alone someone who is literally born with a target on their back. So thank you for opening up about that. That's why I believe you being a Black mother, creating this movement in your community, having this small march. Like, I saw the videos on social media of those kids, Black, white, and Asian children with signs marching, saying that Black lives matter, with their white, and Asian parents and Black mothers and fathers. It was something sweet And it was something so innocent that I had to reach out to and speak with you. I had to reach out to interview you because we can no longer take for granted the work of Black women. We're seeing, win with Black women right now. We have Black women in a position to become the next vice president of the United States right now. And so I wanted to highlight you and definitely give you kudos and a chance to speak and share your voice, since you are literally creating a space for not just Black Americans, but all Americans. The thing I loved most was how diverse your march was. I mean, the videos are beautiful. Were you surprised at the diversity and the turnout for the Black Kids Matter march in Brooklyn?
Yes. So 100% I was surprised. Back to why we did the march in that way. My son was scared, so we left that march, that big march that was produced by someone else. And I came back to my group chat and I was like, wow, I don't want him to be left on the other side of history, but I need to create a space for him to be able to feel comfortable and safe to voice his opinion and to protest and let out that energy that we all have. So let's have like a faux march for the kids. It's almost like a play date. Like, let's get together, get our kids together, have them make their signs. We made sure that the signs were only positive messaging, and we reinforced positive things.
That's important.
I tried to have the parents to stray away from doing defund 12, which is, these messages are important, but I didn't want our kids to be leading with oppressive messages, like stop killing me or things like that. I was like, hey, let's have reinforcing messages that are reinforcing their greatness. So let's talk about Black Lives Mattering. Let's talk about, well, there's like a few cute signs that maybe you can show in the clip, but there's just like empowering messages that kids had to really think about. And even the white and Asian and all other races that make up Bed-Stuy, they came together and I said, don't use oppressive messaging when you're referring to kids, because we internalize those messages. So no matter how many times you go to protest and you're screaming, stop killing me, you are actually attracting that energy to you, and it's draining. So we stayed away from that. Right. Oh, what the sign was, A is for activists or something. It was just cute. I don't know.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so we got them together. I said, well, let me make a flyer for it because, other people might want it.
I was just going to ask, what were the forms of promotion that you used for the march? Because you organized it in how long? 2 weeks?
No, it was like 3 days. Because I decided I wanted to do it at the park on that Friday. It was a Monday. By Tuesday, I had made the flyer.
And what was the name of the park where the march took place?
Bon King Park, better known as Tompkins Park to localists, non-gentrifiers.
Come on, Brooklyn.
Right. So maybe a couple of days, and the word got out, and so many mothers have been like, thank you, because I want to take my kids to march, but we don't want them to get like stampeded over. Like, we want them to feel safe.
Right.
So it was the kids only. We tried to tell adults, like, if you don't have kids, you don't need to come. We love and appreciate your support, but let's do it for the kids. We marched around the small park. It's a very small park. We marched around twice. The kids were like, holding their signs and screaming, Black Kids Matter. We had we had the Brooklyn Borough President come and walk behind them. We made sure to have all the adults walk behind their kids and let the kids march. And then there's an amphitheater at the park, so we had the kids say how they felt. I was a moderator. We didn't voice our opinions because they have new opinions. And to be honest, it was actually kind of heartbreaking that some of the kids that had gone into their teen years, like not teen, like preteen, 11, 12, they had the same opinions that we had, which were like oppressive. They felt defeated. And this is at 11 and 12 years old, and they were just sad. Some of the younger kids, like 3 and 4 years old, were, still hopeful and just excited to be able to scream that their lives mattered. But we had that space for them to be able to talk, and a lot of people left and said, wow, it was an amazing moment that they won't forget. And the kids, I believe, in their minds, in their history, they're going to feel like Martin Luther King. Like, they're going to be, I was marching on the sidelines when I was 3 years old, and hopefully these things change and they'll feel like they really were a part of that change.
Amazing. I just have to give you kudos again. And that's the thing. You don't get a public pat on the back. And so that's what I'm trying to do here in terms of bringing people on, bringing guests to read the bottom line, who are truly doing the work in the communities that you might not hear about on a magazine or on social media or on the news. But here, when it gets to the bottom line of the work that it's going to take to actually heal the racial tensions, heal these wounds, heal some of this trauma that these young Black kids are experiencing, it's going to take mothers like you, Emerald.
Yeah. And you know, trauma is, it starts so young.
Yeah. And I have to just point this out because it just made me think. Black mothers have always been the mother to everybody. You know, I think sometimes, and I just want to give you more praise and kudos, because sometimes we don't understand that even systemically and historically in our genes, we as Black women from the African diaspora, descended from African women, the original people from the motherland in Africa. I'm gonna go there. You know, we have this
motherland.
We have this natural ability to nurture, this natural compassion. You know, you could have been like, this is only for Black kids and their Black parents and families. You could have been like, this is only for the single mothers. This is only for Black mothers. No, we as a people, African Americans, more than any other group, are always the most open, the most inviting to every other culture when it comes to our events, our culture, our activities, and our history. And I want to point that out. Not everyone can do what you did. And that's why it's such a beautiful thing that deserves attention. You did it in a way that could be remembered. It was significant. It was on Juneteenth, and you were able to get some press about it. Do you want to speak more about the journalists that came out? And then also, I do want you to share before we go about what you told me about what happened on the grass. Even when you kind of did a mimic of a sit-in, that's when people started to get a little bit uncomfortable. So can you talk about that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had two marches. One was June 12th, and then the second one was Juneteenth, where we did that sit-in.
Awesome.
The first one was a protest, and the kids were able to speak. The second time around for Juneteenth, I was like, well, we could do another protest, but I think that people think the protests are cute. And this is like, it's cute for the kids, but it's powerful and it's meaningful and it's meant to send a message. So we are going to do a sit-in. A sit-in is to make people feel uncomfortable. When we did the first march, I am welcoming, I'm inviting to every culture, but they were standing in the park from their comfort zone on their blankets, cheering us on, clapping us on. Black kids matter, yes. So I was like, that doesn't sit well with me. We're going to go sit with them and have a picnic, and we're going to clap from our picnic blankets. And we're going to, we marched around the park twice. People were clapping. And then we started to go onto the grass, and people started to lay out their picnic blankets and to sit down and eat and just enjoy the community in the same way that our neighbors are enjoying them. And I mean, it was a little bit sarcastic or satirical. I was going around and telling all the white families, like, Happy Juneteenth. How are you feeling today?
Yes, Happy Juneteenth.
And they were saying, Happy Juneteenth. And I'm like, it's like a great day, you know? The same way you would say Happy 4th of July, Happy Juneteenth, and say it back to me.
Amen.
And it started off cool, and then we noticed that a lot of the white families left. And, you know, they started to casually grab their blankets and leave, which is a problem. But what I'm going to continue to do at that park is to just occupy it.
Right.
I'm busy, but I have to make it a point to go to that park because that's
occupy space.
And occupy space. So I've been doing twice weekly with my son. We've been boxing in the park. I'm going to have a boxing park.
Ooh.
I've been telling other people to just go. Don't have your beautiful picnic at Central Park. Go to your park and do the same thing there so people can see that you operate in excellence and that you occupy the space just as well. We have been neglecting these things in community. I have a kind of bizarre opinion of gentrification that's not as popular, but I do feel like if you occupy your space and see beauty in it before others come to your community and see it, then you have the first opportunity to gentrify yourself. Meaning just upgrade yourself in your settings. We tend to go outside of our community. We tend to go outside of our community to feel better and to do things and to have experiences, but we can have those same experiences within our community and we can save ourselves. So my thing with the sit-in is like, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to enjoy this space. I'm going to see this park and see opportunity here. And I'm going to save myself. I don't need anyone to save me. And I also don't need anyone to kind of, displace me.
Right.
Like, I'm enjoying this space. I'm reclaiming my space. So that's what I hope to do at the park and in Bed-Stuy in general. I'm holding on for dear life to just be an occupant here, a resident here.
Yes.
To see the beauty in the culture here and to become an owner and to show my community that we can live and thrive and we don't have to always be oppressed. So that's my mission on a bigger level. On a smaller level, oh, and just an update, we also created a Black Kids Matter mural and someone erased it.
What?
Yeah, so that was like drama.
Wow.
So,
oh no, we're going to have a follow-up about that because that's new information.
I got to back up. I had another event after Juneteenth and we did a community mural day and we got the mural back up and we told, we kind of made noise about the fact that don't erase, even if it's chalk, let the rain erase it. It's not for you to erase this message that Black kids matter because the Black kids who come here, they need to know that their lives matter. And the white kids and every other kid who comes there needs to get this message from the beginning that Black lives matter and no one is less than any other person. We are all human and we all need to be treated fairly. So we already had our follow-up event and I'm going to keep doing things and making noise in that park as I think of them. I'm a mom and I think I told you this before. Our group was more of a socialist group, but I'm moving more toward being an activist and creating a nonprofit organization. That will come eventually. But this work, I'm doing it on the whim and I'm going to keep doing it though. I'm not going to let up.
Yes. From socialite to activist. Okay. Go ahead and tell them where to follow you.
You can follow me at Dope Moms Club Dope Moms Club Inc. on Instagram, and my personal page is Emerald City, which is where I have a lot of fun. But most of my activism is done on Dope Moms Club Inc. And also I have a cooking channel that's under construction. It's called Dinner with Miss Knox. By fall, I should have more of my things up there. But yeah, just get into me. Let's connect. I'm all about community and creating relationships with people that are empowering.
Yes, and you are empowering me. You are so powerful. I just love your voice. Again, please follow Miss Emerald. It's at Emerald City on Instagram, at Dope Moms Inc. And also at Dining with Miss Knox.
Dinner with Miss
Knox. Y'all need to go to Dinner with Miss Knox.
Yeah.
If you are in New York, if you are in Harlem, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, I just can't stress it enough. This is the woman you need to connect with because she is about her business. She's doing work in the community. If there's anyone who wants to partner with you, work with you, or interview you, how can they contact you, Emerald?
Definitely DM is fine. You also can hit me up at knoxbrandmedia@gmail.com. But DM is where I make a lot of my connections. I really do feel like social media can be used to do amazing things in the world. I don't think, some people say social media is so fake, but there's real people behind these pages who are trying to make things happen. So I make it a habit to answer my DMs and also to connect and listen to people. And I'll post things in my DM where I want people to respond and let me know how they're feeling because we're all human and social media is so powerful if we use it right. So DM is fine.
Awesome. All right, y'all. We're at the time in the show where I like to give my shout outs because I love shouting out my people. Don't you? Shout outs make you feel good. So the first shout out I got to give in this first episode of Read the Bottom Line is to the new podcast, Bring the Wine. What's up, y'all? Shout out to Bring the Wine. You can follow them on Instagram at BTWPOD at Bring the Wine Podcast. Shout out to y'all. I love the page. I love wine even more, so I definitely have to check you all out. I also want to give a super special shout out to my first intern, y'all. Yes, the official intern of Read Limited Entertainment, my consulting company. Her name is Samaya Hall. Shout out to Sammy. Girl, you are killing the game. You are putting all the other interns to shame, I promise. Most people probably ain't even got an internship. They just trying to survive and not get corona. But you over here trying to go back to school. So shout out to Samaya. You've been holding it down. I'm excited to see what you're going to do with our company this summer and going into the fall. I'm really just so excited and happy to have you. Shout out to you, girl. Thank you so much for supporting my podcast and helping me really just stay afloat. Like, I really appreciate you. My next shout out has definitely got to go to Josephine Hill at Josephine Hill Media on Instagram. Follow my media girl, Josephine Hill. She encouraged me to start a podcast, and I am so proud of you. I'm proud of myself, but I'm also just proud of you because Josephine also shared with me a program that Spotify has right now. Well, the deadline passed, y'all. I missed it, but I tried. But shout out to anyone who was selected for the Spotify program for Black women podcasters. They were looking for Black women who wanted to start a podcast, and gave them that training, the tools, and resources needed for that. So I'm definitely know we've got more great content coming from those bright, beautiful ladies, whoever you all are, who were selected for that Spotify podcasting program. Last but not least, I gotta shout out my booth thing at Art by Brian. That is art_by_Lucien, Lucien. I'm so sorry. I gotta give my baby's last name. That's my man, y'all, Brian. He is just a tall, dark glass of everything. Ooh. But he's also an artist, and I respect his work and what he does. Art by Lucien. He is designing masks. He's designing phone cases. If you want to support a Black creative, definitely support my man Art by Lucien on Instagram. And if you want his personal, well, y'all don't really need that. So y'all can figure that out later. And I want to give one last shout out. One last shout out to a mentee of mine. I love mentoring, but I've definitely got to give and show some love to my girl Nene Ba. Yes, girl, Nene Ba. I hope I'm not butchering your name, Nene, but Nene also has a podcast. Let me go ahead and shout out your podcast, honey, because they need to know. Nene's podcast, hold on, I'm pulling it up right now. It is called The Juicy Hour with Nene Pod. So follow her at The Juicy Hour with, that's WITH, Nene, NENEPOD. The Juicy Hour with Nene Pod. I see you, girl. I'm going to follow these podcasts. First one was Bring the Wine. This one is Read the Bottom Line. And then The Juicy Hour with Nene podcast. That's it for my first round of shout outs for episode 1. Stay tuned. Follow me at Danielle S on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I'll holla at y'all soon.